In business, inventory is more than just stock. It's the engine that keeps your operations moving. Manage it well, and you will accelerate growth. Mismanage it, and you will stall. Today, we will ensure that your engine runs smoothly, efficiently, and powerfully. Welcome to another exciting lesson of our Sage 50 Mastery course. And in this lesson, we are diving into one of the most crucial components of business success, and that is inventory management. Whether you are dealing with products or services, how you handle your inventory can make or break your bottom line. By the end of this lesson, you will be well on your way to mastering inventory management using Sage 50. In this lesson, we will explore setting up inventory items. In this lesson, we will explore tracking stock levels and managing reorders. In this lesson, we will explore analyzing inventory reports. We will use our ongoing Mira Global case study to demonstrate how these concepts work in practice. Now, let's get started. And first, we'll begin with setting up inventory items in Sage 50. So let's go to Sage 50. Setting up inventory items in Sage 50. Now you must know this, that inventory is not just about what is sitting on your shelves or in your warehouse. It's about knowing what you have, where it is, and how much it's worth. Properly setting up your inventory items is the foundation for effective inventory management. So the question becomes, how do I set up inventory items here in Sage 50? To set up inventory items in Sage 50, all you have to do before we practicalize this is to go to the maintain menu. When you get to maintain menu, scroll down, you will see where we have inventory items. So you select inventory items. The inventory item window will open. In this window, you are to click on new at the top here. Then you fill in details like your item ID. Item ID is going to be a unique identifier for each product or service. Your description, you provide a name for that item. Item class, you choose whether this item is a stock item, a non-stock item, or service. Now, in all our trainings, we try to break this down for students to understand what each of these item classes that we have is actually all about. So for us to do this, we'll come back to this so we can use a practical scenario to get to understand this perfectly. But just take down the steps I'm sharing. Your GL sales account, this is where you assign the appropriate revenue accounts. GL inventory, where you assign the appropriate inventory accounts. Cost of sales, where you assign the appropriate cost of goods sold accounts. So you have to do all of this. Your price level 1 is where you impute the sales price of the item. Last unit cost is where you impute the cost price of the item. You come over here, you see we have reorder quantity. This is where you set reorder levels. Like I said, we will cover all of this in more detail soon when we are doing the practical using this Global Services Limited case study. Now you ask me, sir, why is all this important? Because by the time you're filling all this, you have to click on save. And I will tell you it is important because accurate inventory setup ensures that you can track your goods properly. Accurate inventory setup ensures that you can manage costs. It also ensures that you can prevent issues like overstocking or stockouts. So there are a lot of benefits. Proper setup helps streamline processes, reduces errors, and ensures accurate financial reporting. So your stock becomes easy to manage when you do this. It reduces the risks of lost sales due to stockouts or tied up capital due to overstocking. So this is very important. And that's the reason why I want you to pay attention on this, especially as far as this part 1 is concerned. So let's now go to practical. And like I told us, in the world of business, inventory is the backbone of your operations. Get it right and your business thrives. Get it wrong and everything else suffers. So I want us to make use of Mira Global case study to demonstrate how these concepts work in real-world scenarios. So let's start by creating some new inventory items, because if you come to list, you'll find out that we created 2 in previous lessons. Here we created corporate travel package and oil field service support. So right now, let us create some new inventory items to understand what each options in Sage 50 means, especially the options that you find in the new inventory setup window. So for this lesson, Mira Global Services Limited is adding 2 new key inventory items. One called solar power kits. Solar power kits happen to be a tangible product to help clients in rural areas generate sustainable energy. So we are going to set up solar power kits. And the second inventory Mira Global Services Limited is adding is the on-site installation service. Now, the on-site installation service is a service offering to help clients install solar panels in their homes or businesses. Here is how we would set up these 2 inventory items in Sage 50. So I will take this again. Open Sage 50, go to Maintain menu, select Inventory Items. Click on New to create a new item. Now, let me break down each part of the item setup. You must understand the Sage 50 Inventory Setup tab. It's very important. Now, when setting up an item in Sage 50, you will see many options. I want to explain each of these so you will never forget their significance. The item ID is where you provide a unique identifier, a number for each of your items. So every item must have its own ID. Description is where you provide the name or a clear description for your item or the name of the item. Item class. The first item class we have there is stock item. Now, stock item is a physical item that you hold in inventory. Just like in this scenario, solar power kit is a stock item because it is a physical item that we hold in inventory. Master stock item. These are items used when you have multiple variants of the same product. For example, different models of solar kits. Non-stock item. We choose this for items you don't keep in physical stock, but still sell. They are just like customized orders. Description only. We choose this for those items you want to set up that has no inventory tracking, just a description. This happens to be useful for quotes or reference. Service. For services like the on-site installation service. This item class will track labor without requiring inventory. Labor is a type of item class used to track services related to labor. For example, on-site installation service can be classified as labor. Assembly. Assembly is an item class that represents items made up of multiple components. For example, a solar kit assembled from various parts. Activity item is an item class we use here in Sage 50 for services billed based on time or milestones. For example, consulting or hourly work. Charge item. Charge item is an item class used for miscellaneous charges. For example, shipping fees or setup charges. So these are all the item classes we have. So know the item classes and know which is suitable for each setup. Now let's go down to other options we have here. For example, if you scroll down, you will see we have the general tab, custom feed, history, bill of materials, item, attributes, inactive, subject to commission, quantity on hand, quantity on SO, preferred vendor ID, buyer ID, stocking, weight, location, item type, and all of this. Now let's look at them carefully. Price level 1 is the selling price. So that's why you provide the sales price. Last unit cost is the purchase cost. That's the cost price for the item. That's where you enter it. Then the cost methods, the different methods. We have FIFO, first in, first out. We have LIFO, last in, first out. We have average method. So go through previous lesson, you find out where I emphasized on this, especially on the average method. Now we use these methods to determine the value of your inventory and the cost of sales when you sell your inventory items. So you must keep this in mind. The UPC/SKU. UPC is an acronym that stands for Universal Product Code. I will take it again. UPC stands for Universal Product Code. SKU is an acronym that stands for Stock Keeping Units. Stock Keeping Units. Now, these codes help you identify specific items, especially when managing large inventories. It is useful for physical products like solar power kits in this scenario to differentiate between different models. Item type. Here we choose between the type of item, between stock, item type, or maybe non-stock, labor, or other types based on how the item behaves in inventory. Location. This is where we indicate where your inventory is stored. There are times where you will have multiple warehouses. This can specify where the solar power kits in our scenario are physically located. Stocking U/M. The word U/M stands for units of measure. And this takes care of how the item is measured. Some items are measured in units, some are measured in boxes, some are measured in cases, in dozen, and all of that. So for our solar power kits, we might use units if we sell them individually. And I'm sure you understand what we are talking about now. The weight talks about the weight of the product. Okay, so these are important. The GL sales account is for your income account. The GL inventory account takes care of your inventory accounts. The GL cost of sales account takes care of your cost of sales, cost of goods sold account. Item tax, this is where you link up your sales tax, okay, to this. So these are all what you have to do. Then quantity on hand is where you provide the quantity on hand is going to appear there. Quantity on sales order is going to appear there. Quantity available, quantity on purchase orders, you would see it will appear there, provided you have done that setup. So don't forget what I said. And like I said, price level 1. This lets you set pricing tiers. There's what we call pricing tiers, pricing levels for different customer groups. You can have prices for retail customers, wholesale customers, open market customers, and all of that. So this is where you do that. For instance, you might offer bulk pricing for large orders of these solar power kits we want to set up. So if you click on the drop-down icon there, you will see that you can set up different price tiers, different price levels. You can enter them and click OK for your different customer groups. So it's awesome. Last unit cost, like I said, shows you the most recent cost of acquiring the item. That's why the word used is what? Last. So it's especially useful for stock items, like the one we will set up, solar power kits, where you want to track your cost changes is useful. Okay. So other fields we have here is the custom field. The custom field here in say 50 allows you to create fields specific to your business. So you might add custom fields like warranty period or supply information for the solar power kits you want to set up. So this is where you come and do it. You can add warranty period here and all of that. The history section shows the transaction history for the item. And this is helpful for tracking past sales and purchases over here on the history section. If you go up, you will see where we have inactive. Inactive is a place where we mark an item as inactive if you no longer sell it, but want to keep it in the system for historical purposes. So you tick that inactive box. Subject to commission. This very feature helps you, especially if you have a sales rep. And if sales reps earn a commission on the sale of an item, maybe it could be for those product businesses or real estate companies, where your sales reps, your agents will earn commission on the sale of a land. So this feature is important because you can mark it here. A good example also is drawing from our illustration here. We talked about setting up on-site installation service. So you can also mark it here. On-site installation service, you can subject it to commission because it might be subject to commission if your team gets paid based on completed services. So this is also important for you to take note of. So for bill of materials is what we abbreviate as BOM. It is used for assembly items. Remember, in your item class, we have an item type we called assembly. So we use, assuming we are clicking on assembly, you find out what bill of materials is now active, showing you 3 columns on a table: item ID, description, quantity needed, and below print component on invoice, you can add and all of that. So the BOM goes in line with assembly item class, and it is used for assembly items where the product is made up of multiple components. For example, let's talk about a product like solar panel. You and I know very well that solar panel might have a bill of materials listing all the parts used to assemble it. And that's the beauty of that very feature. Is that not awesome? Wow. Item attributes. This is also a feature we use because when we look at the characteristics that help categorize items, that's what we call item attributes. It's basically the characteristics of your items. What characteristics do I mean? I'm talking about characteristics like the size of the item, the color. You know, there are some products that you have red color, you have white color, you have green color, and all of that. So each time you want to set up your items and also set up their characteristics, that's where you come to item attributes. So you also set up the size of the item, the color, the model of the item. For the solar power kits we want to set up, our attributes might include the power capacity. You know, solar power kits have different capacity. We can have 5 kW, we can have 10 kW. That becomes the item attribute and is important. Okay, so what have we not talked about? All of these have been spoken of, and they are all very important. If you go at the top, you see the close. We use this to close the Sage 50 item setup window once you're done. We use the list to view the list of items. We use the save to save what we have done. We use the delete to delete an item we do not need. We use the new to create a new screen for us to have our new item. We use the notes to add a note. So there are times where you need to place a place where you can add internal notes about the item. For example, if I click on it, I can include a note like for supply information. Maybe this item is from a supplier and all of that. So, or installation instruction. If this happens to be the on-site installation service, we can use these notes to just maintain a simple installation instruction. So all these are relevant towards whatever you do here. The report gives you a quick access to certain reports that are important. Your bill of materials report is coming because bill of materials is now active due to the item class selection, which happens to be assembly. Inventory profitability report is another report that is also important. Purchase order report is also important, sales order report. So as you set up, you will notice that the report changes. So you have access to them. If you want to attach a picture or something, you can also use the attach button over here. Then the help gives you access to other resources that could aid your setup. Okay. So I'm trying to ensure that I've spoken about everything. So quantity on hand, like I said, about this quantity on hand, that it shows you, it displays the physical number of units available in your store, in your warehouse. So anytime you open your item, you want to know how many do I have quickly, instead of going through the reports. If you see it here displayed, that tells you the physical number of units of your product available in your store, in your company, in your warehouse. Then the quantity available is also important because it displays how many units you currently have in stock. For example, if by the time we have set up solar power kits, we want to know how many units we have in stock, this is where you come to quantity available. If we say we have 100 solar power kits on hand, this field will show that number. I hope we are following. The minimum stock box here talks about minimum level, and the minimum level of inventory is important because this very section shows you the minimum level of inventory before you need to reorder. For our solar power kits we set up, you might set the minimum stock level at 10. Nothing bad doing that. Reorder quantity. The reorder quantity gives you insight into how many units to reorder when stock hits the minimum level. So if the minimum level happens to be 10, when stock hits that minimum level, how many units do we need to reorder? If you reorder in batches, we can say, okay, we reorder in batches of 20 solar power kits. That's where you set it. You come and set it here. Meaning, if the minimum, the stock hits the minimum level of 10, we are to reorder 20 solar power kits. So you have to do all that settings. Quantity on SOs. SO is an acronym or abbreviation, and it stands for sales orders. Now, the SO shows how many units have been sold, but not yet shipped. If you have pending orders for, let's say, 20, we have placed order for 20, okay, or no, let's say a customer have placed order for 20 of this item. Maybe a customer placed, we have pending orders for 20 solar power kits. This will display that very quantity, okay, based on the pending orders that have been made for this very item from a customer. So these are all important for you. Same goes with the quantity on PO. PO is purchase order. PO talks about, quantity on PO now talks about the opposite of the SO, quantity on SO. Because here we'll now be focusing our attention where it shows you how many units you have ordered but have not yet been delivered. So there are times here you have pending orders from your vendors. This will display that for you. I hope we understand this. So what else? Preferred vendor ID. Now the preferred vendor ID, this talks about your vendor, your supplier. The supplier you usually order this very item from, or your items from. For instance, for the solar power kits, we can set up another supplier called Eco Energy Limited. So that's very supplier where we get this have to be set up, since that's the supplier. So this is where you now link up the supplier using this glass icon. We'll now say, okay, who is this vendor? We can't choose Giant Travel Tours because they are not related. Giant Travel Tours looks into travel-related items, so they are not related. So take note of your preferred vendor is where you select the supplier you usually order your item from, that very item from. The buyer ID is the person responsible for purchasing the item. So this is important because you have to select it. Who is the person responsible for purchasing this item? That's the buyer ID. And it's important because it can help with tracking who made purchase decisions, especially in your organization. Lastly, you can see a little feature below, because a lot of times I receive calls from professionals who try to find out or ask, how do we set up beginning balances, especially for existing business, when you are setting up an item and you realize that this very item have some balance already. Where do you capture it? So this is where you do it, okay? Sorry that it's looking tiny. So this beginning balance is important because when you click on it, you find out what appears happen to be the inventory beginning balance window, asking you for an item ID to be provided. And if we are saying we have an item like corporate travel package, maybe during setup, we realize that for corporate travel package, we have a total number of 100 quantity on hand available. So this is where we are going to set it up. So once we put it there, we'll then go up and click OK. The moment we do this, you find out that your balances will now reflect. Let's click on it. Once I click on OK now, for this beginning balance, by the time we provide the name, okay, and all of that, you find out that it will now reflect as our quantity on hand. So what am I trying to say? The beginning balance here, of course, you can see quantity is this. So I'm just going to take it away. Okay, so the beginning balance is a feature here in SAFe 50 setup item setup window that allows you to impute initial inventory balances when setting up SAFe 50 for the first time. So this is very important for you to understand. And I hope you practice this so you can perfect it. So right now, I want us to do a quick practical on those two items we just made mention about. And like I said, we are going to use solar power kits and on-site installation service. So let's go. So to do this setup, we'll take it back again. The steps again now. All right, so come to your maintain, click on inventory item. So I want to add an item. How? Go to maintain menu, come down to inventory item, click on inventory item. Once you have done that, item ID must be in line with the ones you have. So this can be 3 because we have 2 already. So I'll go back and click on new. Item ID, I'll put 3. Description, I'm going to enter the name of this item. We said the name of the item is what? Solar power kits. So I'll say solar power kits. And this is a tangible product to help clients in rural areas generate sustainable energy. So item class, at this part, I will now select the item class. So I'm going to use stock item. Price level 1, I will enter the price for this solar power kit. So I can say the price is, let's say the price for this solar power kit is 500,000. The last unit cost is 400,000. Okay, so we can just do this. Then for your sales accounts, we'll go with that relates to energy. So we don't take much time, maybe oil and gas sales. Okay, but you know what to do here. You have to create an income account. Do that as your practice if you've gone through the previous lessons. Create an income account, call it sales, solar power kits. This is what I mean. So shortcuts, we'll click on new. And we'll go to list to check the list of accounts we have already. So if you look down here, the last income accounts happen to be 4007. So we'll go back to our new, we'll say this will be 4008, discretion, sales, and then we say solar power kits. Account type, we'll select income, then we'll click on our save. Then once this have been done, we'll then close. So what this helps us now is we have an accurate account to link up with. So we'll now come back here and look for it. This is it. Sales, solar power kits. You can see the account code 4008. So please go through the previous lessons, okay? Go through the previous lessons. So far as you've purchased this course, every lesson is powerful, is fully loaded. So you don't have to miss any of them. So you understand certain concepts here. All right. So the inventory account is also another account that you have to also pay attention to, especially when using this. So we're also going to create another. We'll click on new. We'll give it a number. But first, let's confirm the last number. So the last number for this happened to be 1006 for inventory travel packages. So we are going to call this 1007, and the name is going to be inventory solar power kits. This is important for managing your inventory. So select inventory as account type, then save. Okay. So same we are going to do also for our cost of sales. So we are not confused. So let's go back here. So we'll select inventory accounts. We'll select our inventory solar power kits. Then cost of sales. You know, I've explained what all these are meant for in previous lessons as well. So cost of sales, we're also going to do that same here. So look for it. If it's to check, the last number is 7002, cost of sales. So click on new. On our chart of accounts, if you are wondering what's this window about, is the chart of accounts. Go through the chart of account lesson, you understand it better. So this will be 7003. And we're going to call this cost of sales. Solar power kits. Okay, then we'll come down to account type and select cost of sales. We'll click on save. So the moment you're done with this, you can close this screen. And no, this should still be here. We're still here. All right, so we'll come cost of sales, and then we'll select our cost of sales, which is the solar power kit. The item tax type, you come and select your item, your tax item. So since we don't have that here, let's quickly go and set up our tax. This is how we set up our tax, especially here in my country, Nigeria. Our sales tax is VAT, value added tax. So we'll come to maintain, scroll down, come to sales tax, click on it. It brings this sales tax wizard window. Click on next. Once you click on next, it will ask what is the total rate that you will charge. Okay, we'll say 7.5%. How many individual rates make up this total rate? 1. So you come down, click on next. Then sales tax agency ID, you put your agency ID there. And then you move to sales tax agency name. You put the agency name for this. So say FIRS. Then which vendor do you send the tax you've collected to? Now it's expected that you should have set up this vendor on the system. So here you click on new instead of going back to vendor model. Click on new and it brings you to the setup for vendors. So you give an ID, but before that, check list so you maintain an accurate organized system. So the one we have is vendor ID 1. So go back to new and close this window. This will be 2. Then we'll call this FIRS. Okay. So once you're done with this, you then come up here and click on your save. It's very important you do this. You click on your save. So you're going to fill in all other information from contact, account number, mailing address, city, zip, country, customizable feeds, account rep, special notes. All of these informations are informations you have to fill. So right here, like I said, on this vendor window, you have to fill in all your vendor information for this vendor called FRS. Address, history, purchase information are all useful. So go through the lesson on inventory vendor setup. You understand this better. Okay. So the essence of doing this is just for us to be able to have a complete inventory setup, especially for our sales tax. So once you have entered the name and the ID, scroll down, you'll see where we have this tab that talks about expense accounts. So you come down here and link this very vendor to an expense account. So for this, you can use your sales tax, you can create an account for that tax, sales tax payable and all of that, and then link it to it. So we don't have that here. We don't have that here. So since we don't have it, we'll come click on new. So we'll give a number to this. Let's go to our list. Let's check our, I think that's our account payable happen to be our liabilities and all of that. We have 203. So we can make this to be 2004. Okay. Description, call it sales tax payable. And then account type, we'll choose other current liabilities. Then we'll say save. So once you come over here, we'll select that sales tax payable account, which is this. Sales tax payable, I think it should be at the top. Yeah. All right, 2004. So once you're done with all this, click save. Then go to list. So you'll be able to view to confirm if this vendor have been added. So you can see that FRS have been included. So you close the window and then you also close this window. So over here, which vendor do you send this VAT to, this sales tax to, you have collected to? You click on the drop down and select FRS. So FRS is the tax authority. We remit this sales tax to here in my country, Nigeria. So for those of you in other countries, those of you in Ghana, Kenya, in South Africa, in the US, and other European and Asian countries, please, over here, you have to select the agency, tax agency you remit your sales tax to. Okay, I know some countries call it GST, like in India and all of that, the GST, good sales tax and all. So please, it's applied globally. Okay. So how are sales tax calculated for this agency? Is it by single rate, by formula? Here in my country, it's not by formula. So in your own country, if it's by formula, click on by formula and enter the formula. Here we have a single rate. Okay, so we choose by single rate. So the rate is what? You now enter it 7.5%. Then you have to select an account to track your sales tax. And that's where you now select that sales tax payable account we created. What that account does, it keeps track of how much you're to remit. Okay, so we'll click on the drop down, we'll come down, it gives you an overview of your sales tax view. So we'll come and select it here. This is it, sales tax payable. So we are going to select it. We'll come down, click on next. When we click on next, it now brings you to this last screen. This last screen talks about sales tax entered. So here you have to provide your sales tax ID, sales tax name. We say the sales tax name is what? In Nigeria, we call it value added tax. Sales tax ID, provide your sales tax ID. Provide your sales tax ID. Okay, can leave it as that. Then do you charge sales tax on freight? If yes, you say yes. If no, you say no. Okay, and I'm sure you know what freight talks about. More of logistics and all of that. So if you do that, you say yes. If you don't, you say no. So you can now confirm agency name, FRS, agency ID, rates. And you come down and click on finish. So this is how we add this. Then once you're done, you can come and click on view. So you can view all your sales tax and associated agents. So you can see value added tax, the sales tax ID, which you can change to any ID, rates, and all what you have done here. So once you're done, the account 2004, that's the sales tax payable account. And you confirm all this, you click on finish again, you come to close, choose close the sales tax wizard and you click on finish. The moment you do this, you're done with your sales tax. Okay. So now we'll now go back to our inventory setup window. So we'll continue the inventory we are setting up. So I want to believe you're enjoying this, right? You know, here in Miramar Consulting, all our lessons, that's how it is. All our training programs, both our data analysis, data science courses, cybersecurity courses, all the programs we run on artificial intelligence, software development is always interesting. Ask students out there who have taken any of our courses, and our programs are also globally recognized. So I want to appreciate you for coming by and for paying attention. So please, let's make it a memorable training lesson. Okay, so let's continue. So now that we have set up our VAT, we'll now come to this field where we have item tax type. We'll click on the icon here. Okay, you now click on it. So once you have done that, you can now select one, regular, which is what? Taxable, meaning that this item is taxable. So once you're done with this, I think that's okay. Then for the preferred vendor ID, maybe you have this vendor that you normally purchase these solar power kits from. This is where you now pick out that very vendor. So if we click on preferred vendor ID, there is no vendor for that. We are having Giant Travel. We are also having this other vendor that talks about FRS, that's for our tax. So what you now have to do is to set up a vendor where you have one. So for instance, we can say that Mira Global Services Limited purchases solar power kits from Echo Energy Limited. So the first thing you will do is to come down, click on new, instead of going back to vendor window. Click on new to bring you back to this vendor, maintain vendor screen, and then give an ID for these vendors. This will be the third vendor. So I'm just coming to list so I can confirm this. So vendor ID 3, vendor name, I'm going to call it Echo Energy Limited. So we'll say Echo Energy Limited. Okay. So once we have done this expense account, fill in other information for general, address, history, okay, purchase info, fill in, come back to general, where you have expense accounts, select your cost of sales, can go, or any other expense account you might want to link up with that. Okay, so I can use our cost of sales solar power. Okay, can also use that for this very vendor, and I'll come over and click on save. So this becomes the preferred vendor. So I'll select the vendor here. Who is this vendor who purchased from? Says Echo Energy Limited. And you notice that Sage 50 utilizes the code, the unique identifier given across. Now, if they happen to be in one way that this happen to be, let's say, an existing company where you're doing this setup for as the accountant, you need to pay attention, because when we are setting up items, we also pay attention to the balance, So it might be that solar power kit is already on ground. We have about 40 units. What do? You have to come to click on beginning balance, and first Sage we want you to save this record. So you say yes, this have been saved. So you now select the item, solar power kit, and enter how many we are told that we have. So if we are told that we have 500, you come here and put 500. Once you're putting 500, you now click on OK. So like I told us before, that the moment you do this, you now find out that you now have quantity on hand, 500 units appear, and your quantity available, you see that 500 units have also appeared. So this is what occurs when you do your setup perfectly. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you love what you're doing. You're ready with us in Miramar. So please don't forget for you to stay tuned with so many of our activities. We are also live on YouTube, where we have several of our courses on YouTube, our YouTube channel, which is Miramar TV. So subscribe on Miramar TV YouTube channel to stay in tune. Just also a way of encouraging our wonderful works here. Okay, so Miramar TV, search for Miramar TV on your YouTube. Go to YouTube, search for Miramar TV. You'll see our YouTube channel, and there are a lot of accounting software courses we publish there for free on different other accounting softwares and other tech programs. Okay. So also, we are also live on Instagram. You can follow us, Miramar Consulting. We're also live on Twitter, X. You can follow us, Miramore Consulting. We're also live on Facebook. You can follow our Facebook page on Miramore Consulting. Okay, we're also live on TikTok. You can follow us on Miramore Consulting. So we are live everywhere, even on LinkedIn. We are everywhere. And as you know it, this very course is being sold at $10. That's the entire Sage 50 course complete, which integrates all of these lessons. It's sold at only an affordable fee of $10 globally. So you can access it from our platform, Mirademy, mirademy.com. So don't fail to go over there so you have access to all our products, our courses, which comes with global certification approved. So for every course you take here, you receive a certificate at the end of it, and quiz sessions also comes alongside with it, just to assess you to ensure that you're well groomed. So you do this and you also will receive your certificate. Our global recognition also comes in line with some awards we also have received from notable institutions globally, which have satisfied our training programs. And this is the reason why we urge you to be part of Miramore Consulting family. Okay, so once we have done this, we can now click on save and then come over and click on our list. So if we click on our list, what do you notice? You find out that we now have solar power kits, although we didn't enter the last unit course, which you can go back to enter it, just to double click and go and enter that information. But if you come to list, you will see what we have done here so far, the items we have added. So one more item we are to include is that of services, which is the on-site installation service. So it's the same you're going to do. You're only going to click on new, and when you click on new, you come to item class, select service for that. Okay, if it is an assembly item, you go click and select assembly. Then you put the name of the item. Then when you're done, you come over there. It's just like, let's say a bottled water, for example. If this is a company that also produces bottled water or things like cream or some of these herbal products or pharmaceutical products or hospital institutions that deals on products that they know that has several components, you use assembly. I will just do a short demonstration on that. Then we are done on this very lesson. Okay, so for the item ID for this, we'll say 4. Then we'll come down, we can call this bottled water. So it's going to be an item that we will use to assemble to produce others, like I told us. So when you do this, you now come to bill of materials and start to add all those items that we need. So if we click on add now, which item do we need to make up this, our bottled water? So before that, we have to come also and click on new. So we can add others, okay? So this is what I mean. For the bottled water, description bottled water, item class assembly, we'll select sales account for that. So by this, you should also have another sales account. So in order for us not to waste much time, I will use an existing one here that could actually link up with it. So we can talk about, okay, let's use oil field service. So let's assume this happened to be oil products, oil. Maybe the company actually produces engine oil. So we'll call this engine oil. So we'll say engine oil, item class assembly. So once you have done that, come to your GL sales account. I hope you are doing this with me. Okay, so click on oil field services, that's 4007. 4007. Then come to inventory accounts, also go and select that which relates to that. So for this, we don't have an inventory account for our engine oil, so you can also click on new. So you go and do that quickly. So this will be inventory. Let's check our list for the last inventory account. The last inventory account was 1007. So this one is going to be 1008. So we'll say 1008. Description, we'll call it inventory. And that is engine oil. Account type, we are going to choose inventory, which is here. Then we'll say save. So you go to list to confirm that that account has been created. So you find that 1008 code is inventory engine oil. So what you will do next is to close this, come back to the setup screen. So for your inventory accounts, you're going to select inventory engine oil. Then we'll talk about the reason for this when we look at managing this inventory. Then cost of sales accounts. For cost of sales accounts, you click on this drop down and go pick that as well. So our cost of sales, we necessarily do not have it here for that very one. So we'll click on new, and we'll also quickly check what's the last account code we gave to our cost of sales. So the last account code happened to be 7004. So we'll come back here, we'll make this to be 7005. Okay, let's see, 703, okay, 7004. Then this is going to be cost of sales. Then we'll say engine oil. Account type is going to be inventory. Once we have done this, we'll then say save, then we'll close. So we now have our inventory engine oil sales. Then cost of sales will now select, which is 7004. And that happens to be our engine oil. So if you know your codes, it will be easier. Just have a notebook, pen down all of these codes, okay? Because every one of them is very important and relevant towards all what you do. Okay, so your tax item, also select your tax item. And this is cool, this is cool. So what we are doing here now is a type of inventory we are setting up called assembly item. So we are setting up assembly item for engine oil in Sage 50 for Mira Global Services Limited. And don't forget what I said, that assembly items in Sage 50 are items that are made up of other items. Other items. So when you heard me mention bottled water, when you look at a bottled water, you find out that a bottled water has different parts. Different parts. Let me share this video now so you see what I'm talking about shortly. All right, so like I promised, I just checked around. I could not find any bottled water, okay, in the office, but I have Fearless drink here, Fearless. So if you take a look at this Fearless bottle, this is an example of what we can call an assembly item. The reason is because when you look at this very product, Fearless, you will realize that it has other items used to make up this very product. For example, here we look at the cover as a component of its own. We look at the nylon, you can see, which is the use for the branding, okay? This design. So the company will definitely pay a printer or a printing press who does this for them. And you know what that means. They will pay the graphics designer who designs the logo and, you know, and all of that. So I want to tear this out. So Fearless is one of my favorite drinks. I don't take much of sugar, but just once in a while, most especially when I'm active in classes. So this is what I'm saying. So we're also setting up things like this. So I believe the engine oil will also have a branding, a design like this. Okay, so this is a component. This is also a component. And also the bottle is a component of its own. I don't know about this yellow stuff here, but it can also be a component. So all of these are important as far as you are assembling a product here. Okay, so assembly items in Sage 50 are items that are made up of other items. This is an item, Because so a company that produces this, okay, the printing organization definitely will record transactions for this. As they do it for other companies, they record this source of income to them. So assembly items in Sage 50, whenever we talk about assembly items, what should come to your mind is that they are items that are made up of other items. In the case of the engine oil we are talking about, it might be a combination of base oil. It might be a combination of additives. It can be a combination of packaging materials like this. You understand? So you have to now set them up. Yeah. So when you're creating the assembly item, like I said, right here on this model, all you have to do is to enter the item number, which is a unique identifier, a unique number to the engine oil assembly. We provide it, we are saying it's 4. And once that has been done, the description, like I told us, you have to provide a detailed description. So when we say detail, we might not go with engine oil because there are different engine oil. So let's say this very one is called 5W30 synthetic engine oil. 5W30 synthetic engine oil. I think that makes sense, right? Yeah. So item class, we are going to specify in assembly. You can select your unit of measure. We can say is in liter. Okay, it can be in liter. So sales price is where you set the price of the assembled engine oil. So we can say the price should be, let's say 2,000 Naira. Okay, so that becomes the price. All right. Then the cost method can go with FIFO and all of that. The preferred vendor where we purchase this from, we still purchase it from, can still say it's also coming from Eco Energy Limited. The buyer ID, like I explained, you can do all that we have done yet. Then, once you're done with this, you then come to bill of materials and then add those items, what we call component item. And I told us what it means because you have to select the individual items that make up the engine oil. The base oil, those of you who are into petroleum engineering and all of that, you know that base oil is part of it, additive is part, packaging and all of that. So come here and select them. So those items too have to be added. So click on add. Then you come to this little drop down here and then begin to do that. So say we don't have any of them, so let's add it quickly. We'll click on new. Now, when we are doing this, there are certain considerations that must be taken to note, okay? For example, the bill of materials, the BOM, which I call BOM, okay? The assembly items, components, quantities, they are all what forms this. So that's why you're seeing that right here, you have to provide the item ID, you have to provide the description and the quantity needed. Okay, all these are very important. I told us in this same lesson, part 2 of it, which is in the next lesson, we'll be looking at inventory management. So Sage 50 will automatically adjust inventory levels when you create or use the assembly item, and it's very important. Then for the costing method, and we also advise that you make use of, for the costing method, you make use of the average, okay, the average cost. And depending on the Sage version you're using, you can also make use of your standard cost methods for accurate cost calculations, and all these are important. Then if you have those variants I talked about, like the different types of engine oil, you know, I talked about, you might also create variants of the assembly. You can use our item attributes to also see how you can do that. So all of these are important for you to perfect this. So quickly, let's add this bill of materials. Let's add those items first. So if we go to list, you confirm if that item is there. So let's check this, okay? So for our bill of material item, it's supposed to appear here, but let's check where that window might be. So I want us to re-enter it again. We said it's going to be 4. Well, before that very ones, let's create the component items. So 4, we have, let's leave 4 for that item, the bill of material item. Okay, so let's say 5. Our item number 5 will be the base oil. We say base oil 5W30. Item type will go with stock item. So you put the price at which you purchase it. Maybe if this happened to be a raw material, so we can say we'll purchase it at, let's say 500. The last, okay, that's the selling price, but we may not necessarily be concerned about that since it's a component. So we can remove this. We can just say last cost is 500. Then we are using, okay, can still go with this. Then I think this is okay. This is okay. This is okay. This is okay. Okay. So once you have done this, one other thing you have to do here, is this. Once you're done with this, link it to the accounts. Okay. So remember we created our income account. So come down, we have sales, oil, services, inventory for our engine oil, cost of sales for our oil services. So this is fine. So we are going to save. All right. So for others, I would just want us to see how we can use same, just not to waste time. Okay. So what we are going to do now is to open this 01. So we'll call this number 6, and the name we're going to change it to additive A. Additive A. So we also maintain this. So let's say the unit cost for additive A is also 500. So we'll save this. We'll go back to list. So we're also going to edit and duplicate this, double click 7. So we have the bottle, right? So we call this plastic bottle. So plastic bottle will also come under the last unit cost. We'll make it, let's say this, so that's 300. Okay. So once we are done with this, we click on save. We go back to list, we confirm. Okay. So lastly, let's talk about the label. You know, this branding sticker, they call it sticker, they call it label. They're all packaging materials. So it has to also be a component of its own. So if you're working in an organization that, you know, you find out that it's the same scenario as I'm explaining, this is what you have to do. It's very important. So now that we have understood this, we'll go and open an existing one, and we say number 8. So the number 8 is also going to be same. So the description is going to be what? Label. So we'll say label, stock item. Then how much for this label? Let's say this label is at 100. So this is all you do. You come and click on save. Then you go back to list to be sure it's here. So once this has been done, you then go and create the assembly product. So click on new. Once we do that, the item ID, we are going to select an item ID. We'll say 4. Remember, we kept 4 for this purpose. So we'll say, what's the name of this? We already gave it a name. We called it, I don't know if you remember the name. We said it's called 5W 30 synthetic. So say synthetic engine oil, 5W 30 synthetic engine oil. Okay. So the item class, we say stock item. Then for sales, price level 1, we are going to put the price for it, which we said 2,000. Then the last unit cost, leave that. Okay. Then once you've done this, item class, change it to assembly. You know, this is the assembled product. Then come to bill of materials. Click on add. Item ID, we are going to select base oil first. Quantity needed for our base oil. You put the quantity, you can say 1, just 1 quantity. You move to the next. The next is our additive A. Quantity needed, we said 0.5. Then we'll come to the next. We select plastic bottle, quantity needed will be 1. Then we'll come to our label. Our label is this, quantity needed will also be 1. So you can see how we have added it. So this is what you have to do. Then you go back to general. So don't forget that this is for sales. Okay. So once you're done with this, we have now entered the bill of materials that are all going to be assembled as well as ensuring that this is done. Then we'll click on our save. So it's asking us for an account. So we'll select those accounts for the income accounts where we have our income account for sales, engine oil. So we'll come down here, we say sales, okay. We are linking it up to oil field services. So we would have created a separate account, but since it's all linked up to oil services, so we can select that. Then inventory, engine oil inventory, cost of sales account, we'll come down and select our cost of sales oil field service. So this is what we have to do. So once we are done with this, we'll then come over here and click on our save. Then we'll go to list. So this is how we have been able to build our different products, especially our 5W synthetic engine product and all of this. So we'll continue this lesson in the next lesson. And don't forget what we are looking at. We are looking at inventory management, and we have just started. Like I said, we are looking at inventory management, and we have just started the process with setting up, which is very important. And I'm sure you're gaining value already on this. Okay, so you agree with me that there are lots and lots of benefits of doing the right setup. And that's the reason why when we started, I told us here that proper setup helps streamline processes. It reduces errors, and it also ensures accurate financial reporting. Your stock becomes easy to manage when you have a proper setup. It reduces the risks of lost sales due to stockouts. A lot of times I have set up these softwares for companies and who always have this issue before I arrive, where they have lost a lot of sales due to stockouts or tied up capital due to overstocking. So if you need assistance, you need a company you can trust and rely on to give your business a very proficient and efficient setup for your inventory, don't fail to call the number on your screen. We're also into rendering setup of software setup services, and we'll be right there. So in our next lesson, I will take you on the next sub-lesson here on lesson 3, which has to do with tracking stock levels and managing what is known as reorders. Let me tell you something that is very important here. Okay, keeping an eye on your stock levels is essential. It's not just about setting it up. You have set up the item, awesome. But keeping an eye on your stock levels is essential for smooth operations. And you need to know when to reorder products before you run out. But also not order too much and tie up your cash unnecessarily. I am Williams. See you in the next lesson. Thank you.